Welcome to FilmVideo, the show where we're going to discuss the latest in film and television. I am Björn, Charlotte Björn, and this takes us to today's show where we're going to discuss Bond with Professor John Cook from Glasgow, Caledonian University. Okay, I'm sitting here with Professor John Cook, and I'm going to ask him a bit about Bond. Okay, my first question is, and who is the creator of James Bond, and what was his motivation to create James Bond?
Well, the original creator of James Bond was the novelist Ian Fleming, and he created James Bond because he was bored. He was about to get married, and I think he was secretly worried about that. So he created an adventurer figure who was a womanizer and a lone wolf as a kind of alternative fantasy figure. And he didn't anticipate that the novels would be as successful as they became, but they became a publishing phenomenon, and then later, as we all know, a film phenomenon.
Okay, so which is the best Bond, you think?
Well, the best Bond is commonly thought to be the first Bond, played by Sean Connery in the very first film made in 1962, Dr. No. Connery created the role, and he brought, as well as a toughness, he also brought a humour to James Bond, partly helped by the director of the original film, Terence Young, who made sure that there was a sufficient amount of humour in the films to temper the violence.
Why do you think the Bond films work so well internationally?
Well, I think it's because they have so many glamorous, exotic locations. Bond travels the world, so in that sense he's an international figure. And the films are partly travelogues. They move from country to country. Also, international audiences like the distinctiveness from Hollywood, the fact that it's a British agent with British accents and British-styled plots. So the combination of the Britishness plus the globe-trotting makes Bond an international phenomenon.
Okay, as we know, the latest Bond, No Time I Done, has done phenomenally well at the box office. But how does this Bond, and particularly with Daniel Craig in it, rate to the other Daniel Craig films?
Well, really, for the Daniel Craig films, they are part of a 5-film cycle. That the makers of the film have talked about a 5-film arc, starting with Casino Royale and now ending with No Time to Die. And so this is the first set of Bond films from a Bond actor where they've all linked together and interconnected with a final payoff.
We know that the pandemic hit this film really bad. How do you think it has made it a better film, though, in the end, that they had more time? Or what is your opinion on that?
No, I don't think the pandemic really changed the nature of the film at all, because the film had already been made and locked in, as they say in the film business, by the time of its original intended release, April 2020. So in that respect, the film's just been sitting on a shelf for 18 months, or more accurately, locked in a safe. What's amazing is that none of the plot details leaked out until obviously the film was released in the cinemas.
The level of violence in this film is quite bad. Is it really necessary to have that level of violence? Could it not be done without?
Well, the Daniel Craig era of films, in other words from Casino Royale onwards, have been much more violent and gritty and tough than perhaps the previous era under Pierce Brosnan. So in that respect, the violence goes hand in hand with the new tough Daniel Craig era. The film in Britain was rated at 12A, which means that children can still go and see it as long as they're accompanied by an adult. So in that respect, while the films are certainly more violent than, say, under the Pierce Brosnan or Roger Moore eras, nevertheless, they're still within the limits of acceptability for children to see.
And finally, what do you think is the future of the Bond franchise?
Well, the Bond producers have said that right now they're not thinking about the future, that instead they'll think about the future of the Bond films and recast the Bond character after the new year in 2022. I'm sure they've had some initial thoughts about what they want to do. I imagine that if history is any judge, the next James Bond will be a real contrast to the previous Daniel Craig eras, because if it's just the same old, then it's not going to be as exciting for the audience. So I suspect change is going to come, and come very, very markedly.
Okay, thanks for the interview. Thanks for watching. Come back next week when we continue our journey into discussing film and media.